Bothersome, intrusive, forceful. These were words that described fate. Well, at least Wyan and Gakushu described them that way. A strawberry blonde boy's attention was caught by a hair-colored-haired girl's figure walking into the classroom. Her face was covered by black sunglasses and a face mask. He was curious as to why she was covering her face so ridiculously. He could tell she wasn't in the best mood. Her eyebrows were furrowed, and judging by the way she was angrily slumped in her seat with crossed arms, she should not be messed with at the moment. However, Gakushu was not the least bit scared of her, so he stood up and approached her. "May I inquire as to why you are going against school dress code?" "Fuck off." Gakushu cocked an eyebrow. "How vulgar of you." It sounded like her nose was stuffed. "I'm not in the mood," she hissed as Cᴑ and Seiji walked over to her desk as well. "Are you okay?" Cᴑ asked worriedly. Wyan answered with a snivel. "Yes." "Then take off the glasses and mask," Gakushu challenged. "Someone get him out of here before he ends up in the infirmary and me in the principal's office," Wyan sneered. "President Asano, with all due respect, you're not helping," Seiji deadpanned. "She's going against school dress code," Gakushu stated. "As student council president, I have to say that it's against conduct." Cᴑ beamed. "I mean, Asano has a point. If you're okay, then take off the coverings." "No." "Why not?" Cᴑ grinned as she reached out to take them off of her. Wyan leaned back. "No." "Whatever happened to you, it can't have possibly done too much damage," Gakushu said, almost tauntingly. "Are you mocking me?" Wyan narrowed her swollen eyes through the glasses. "To be fair, you look ridiculous with or without the covering." Seiji placed a hand over his mouth and softly said, "Don't." Gakushu scowled and removed his hand from his mouth. Wyan's left eye voluntarily watered under the glasses, making her click her tongue in annoyance. She tilted the glasses up for a moment and wiped her eyes with her wrist, doing her best to keep her eyes out of sight from the three. Cᴑ mischievously smirked and took the moment to pluck the glasses off her figure. "There." "Cᴑ!" Wyan complained, covering her eyes with her palms. "Just tell us what happened." Seiji frowned. "We're worried about you." "I'm not." Gakushu crossed his arms. "Just curious." "Geez." Cᴑ deadpanned. Wyan let out a sigh. "Fine. Just don't make fun of me." She hesitantly lowered her hands and pulled down the mask, tucking it under her chin. Gakushu almost gaped at the sight of her red and puffy eyelid. Her nose was red after she blew into a tissue. She sniffled again. Now, he was worried. "Oh my god, are you okay?" Cᴑ panicked. "You look like you've been sobbing the entire night," Seiji added. "I'm concerned," Gakushu admitted. "I thought you said you weren't," Seiji muttered. "I am now," he replied. "You look like you have conjunctivitis, which is contagious." "It's not pink eye," she objected. "Just my allergies." "Is it May?" Seiji pointed out. "This happens every year around this time," she sighed. "I don't remember you being like this last year," Cᴑ pouted. "I think I lucked out last year," Wyan explained, "but it happened the year before last." "So it is atopic keratoconjunctivitis?" Gakushu inquired. "Why do you know that off the top of your head?" Wyan questioned. "I just do," Gakushu pridefully stated. Wyan rolled her red and watery eyes. "Do you know what exactly you're allergic to?" Gakushu asked. "No," Wyan shrugged. "In that case, you should get tested for what allergies you have," he suggested. "I'll be fine." Wyan flapped her hand back and forth. "You look diseased," Gakushu told her. She grumpily frowned and began to rub her eye. "Wyan, Asano's kind of right." Cᴑ frowned, holding her wrist away from her. "Also, don't scratch your eye. You might accidentally hurt something." "Fine. I'm fine. I'll be fine." Wyan lightly pulled her wrist out of Kyo's loose grasp. You should see an optometrist as well, Gakushu added. They should prescribe you suitable medication. I agree, Kyo nodded. I don't know much about medical stuff, but I agree as well. Seiju repeated after Kyo. You look like you're in pain. For Wyan, it was painful indeed. Her vision was sensitive to the light, and she would squint when she was in bright areas. Her eyes stung and leaked like a broken faucet. Her nose was stuffed up and runny. She felt pathetic and a tad bit embarrassed. Gakushu took the glasses from Kyo with a smirk. Besides, you can't cover it up all the time. You'll most likely not even be allowed to work in your condition. Thankfully, the cafe she worked at was closed the next day for renovations. Wyan glared at him as he placed the glasses back over her eyes. I despise everything about you. Kyo and Seiju both sweat-dropped at their interaction. It's Saturday tomorrow. He ignored her comment with a snide grin. You can go get checked by an allergist. Wyan crossed her arms. I hope you choke. Wyan, please. Seiju deadpanned. I'm only trying to care for you, Gakushu stated. The more you leave it alone without any treatment, the longer you'll have to withstand it. Wyan pressed her lips into a thin line. She knew he was right, but she hated that he was. The other day, she didn't get that much of a direct answer out of him. Why the hell does he keep trying to care for me? Throughout the entire school day, Wyan had trouble reading due to her allergies. After a visit from her aunt and uncle the next day, she had decided to stop being stubborn and go to the optometrist. She realized that she was getting irritated by her condition. At some point, she was tempted to break something or start crying out of frustration. Her aunt's nagging was also annoying. Her aunt and uncle drove her to the optometrist. After having a bunch of uncomfortable tests done to her eye, like that weird one that checks your eye pressure, the doctor wrote down notes. You have something called atopic keratoconjunctivitis. I hate Asano so much, Wyan thought. The doctor turned to her aunt. You said your family has a history of many allergies, correct? Yes. Aya nodded with a shaky chuckle. I remember her father having something similar to when he was a teenager. I see. The doctor nodded and turned to Wyan. In that case, you must have gotten it from your father. It's caused by a condition called atopy. This is a genetic condition where your immune system basically goes overboard without producing antibodies in response to allergens. It's more common in men, but your mother must have been a carrier of the gene as well. Have you gotten tested for any allergies? No, ma'am. Wyan shook her head. Is it alright if I refer to you to an allergist then? The doctor asked. Wyan slowly nodded. Sure. Great. The doctor smiled. I'll also prescribe you some specific eye drops. Apply 2 to each eye in the morning and before sleep. Also, I have to advise you to resist scratching your eyes as much as possible. You might cause yourself to develop a corneal abrasion, which will make your eyes even more sensitive to light. Oh, okay, Wyan awkwardly replied. If you use the medicine, your eyes should return to normal by Monday or Tuesday. The doctor added, but you should continue to use the medication for the rest of the season. There are some over-the-counter medications for mild symptoms, so I've written that down here. Thank you. Wyan resisted breathing a sigh. Her uncle drove her to an allergy clinic right after the optometrist appointment. He gave her an encouraging thumbs up as he waited in the car. Since she had not been allergy tested before, the doctor decided to test her for both environmental and food allergies. When the allergy testing, called skin prick test, began, Wyan comically tensed at the sight of the nurse drawing red lines and writing abbreviations on both arms. She held back a snicker. Hopefully, Asano isn't with anyone at the moment. Her smirk disappeared when she saw a clear tray with small pointy sticks on them. Wyan's eyebrow twitched and she bit the inside of her cheek. She watched as a number of red bumps immediately appeared on her skin. The hives were itchy and swollen, but at least at the moment her eye wasn't acting up. Unfortunately, she had to sit there for half an hour. She had to resist scratching, or that would ruin the test altogether. Wow, it looks like you're allergic to a lot of things. And odd. I wonder whose side of the family I get it from. Hwaeun sarcastically grinned. Meanwhile, Gakushu irked at the sight of red marker lines on both of his forearms. At any other moment, he would have felt pride that Hwaeun had listened to him. However, his father happened to have summoned him. It was the wrong time for her to have listened to his suggestion. Before he entered his father's office, his eyebrows twitched at the same time Hwaeun's did. He knew it wasn't worth it to try to wash it off. He let out an irritated sigh before knocking on the door to his father's office. "Come in." When he walked inside, he kept his arms folded behind his back. "You called for me, sir?" Gakushu plainly stated. "Indeed, I did." Gakuho nodded with his hands folded in front of him. This began their regular banter as the student taught to surpass the teacher. While it is known that they began this reconcile after Koro-sensei defeated Gakuho, the competitive nature of either of them never faded. They would still continue to try and up one another. Hence, the reason why Gakuho never called off his son's engagement. It would always be the upper hand that he would have on Gakushu. Gakushu took up the challenge, complying, and sought to see out the engagement. Either way, Gakuho would win. Prideful triumphs in the Asano household were toxic, but an addicting drug. "A friend of mine from high school's coming over from America," Gakuho explained. "Accompanying her will be her daughter, who is only a year older than you." "Go on," Gakushu hummed. "If needed, I'd like for you to get on her good side so that she can put in a good word for me," Gakuho instructed. "I take it that won't be too hard of a task for you?" "It'll come naturally to me," his son confidently stated. "Good," Gakuho mused. "In regards to your engagement." There it is. Gakushu's throat went dry as he plastered a smile on his face. "How is the development with Yumiko?" Gakuho asked. "It's going quite well." Gakushu's smile didn't falter, but his mouth tasted bitter. "She is remarkably persistent when it comes to proving her affections toward me, though I suppose that's from your influences. You seem to be uncomfortable by her. Therefore, I've given her tips how to comply with your devotion," his father admitted. Gakushu's eyes closed with his smile. "I see. I suppose you'd like me to thank you." Despite his words, Gakushu already knew that his father was doing the exact opposite to annoy him. However, Gakushu also knew it won't work. "By the way," Gakuho spoke up, "is there a reason as to why you're hiding your arms behind your back?" Gakushu had to stop himself from tensing up. He came up with a believable lie and revealed his arms. "A classmate of mine, who I was tutoring, plans on pursuing allergy. Therefore, they asked if I didn't mind helping them practice for the future." Gakuho eyed him suspiciously. "I see." He nodded. "You're dismissed." Once the testing was over, the nurse had measured each and every hive on both of Hwaeun's arms. Like she had expected, she had a lot of airborne allergies. What she didn't expect was the number of food allergies she had. Unfortunately for her, her employees' health insurance at Lucette's did not cover allergy testing, so she had to pay for it herself. Now, she only had enough money to pay for rent. Ian had volunteered to pay it for her, but Hwaeun declined and said to save it for one of her cousins. Ian placed a kiss on Hwaeun's cheek, making the girl chuckle. "Your uncle and I are leaving now," Ian told her. "Now remember, no scratching, I got it," Hwaeun finished. "The cookies in the 2 bags are for Kyo and Seiji, yes I know," Hwaeun laughed. "I'm pretty sure they'll appreciate that. And Onhina and her daughter Himiko are coming over in a few days, so I have to come by at some point," Hwaeun added. Remember to get along with her because you know that I don't anymore," Hwaeun interrupted. I feel like you don't believe me when I say that I listen to you. You're so smart. Ayan gushed while cupping her cheeks. Wyan deadpanned as her aunt began to tear up. Your parents would be so proud of you. She chuckled and placed her own hands on top of Ayan's. I haven't done anything yet, but you've grown into such an independent, beautiful young woman. Ayan tearfully smiled. I'm sure they're watching over you. Would beautiful really describe me right now? Wyan asked. Have you seen my eyes? Ayan pouted, making Wyan giggle. Thank you, Auntie. Soon her aunt and uncle drove off. Wyan let out a sigh as she closed the door. She didn't mind that her Aunt Hina was coming over. To be honest, she was excited to see her. She was quite fond of her. She was the owner of a major worldwide hotel corporation. She was literally the rich wine aunt of the family. She was someone Wyan aspired to become. She was an independent and self-sufficient woman who took orders from no one and could take care of a daughter all on her own. However, her daughter Himiko was a different story. Himiko was a model and had a crap ton of followers on her social media accounts. Her goddess-like look easily outshined everyone in the room. When Wyan described her to Seijin Kyo, she used the statement, "She's like a Japanese Paris Hilton." Wyan used to get along with her until they were in their preteen ages. Despite Hina never being one to spoil her daughter and taught her well, Himiko started to become bratty and overindulgent. Well, that's what she would first come off as. Wyan knew she was only putting up a front to fit in. That's what made them have a falling out. Are you okay? Fate snickered. You look like you got stung by wasps in an Animal Crossing. Wyan deadpanned. You play Animal Crossing? No, but I'd like to, Fate sang. Anyway, I've come to deliver a message. Message? From who? She asked. Gakushu. He didn't ask me to, but I feel like he's suffering with a red marker on his arms. Fate laughed. He'll live, Wyan plainly said, observing the bumps on her arms that were fading. At the end of the 30 minutes, the nurses had applied hydrocortisone on her arms to stop the itching and swelling. They also made her take an antihistamine. Asano isn't the one who had to sit for 30 minutes with itchy-ass hives on his arm. She continued, he's also not the one who has atopic conjunctivitis. He kept complaining as he waited for you to wash it off. Fate sighed, not to mention his father could have seen the lines if he wasn't careful. What a baby. Wyan mockingly laughed. The little prince can't handle some writing on his arm? Pathetic. Wyan, if his father saw the ink, that would have raised some questions. Fate scowled. I know you don't like him, but be more empathetic at least. Why should I? He could easily come up with some sort of excuse. Wyan wanted to cross her arms, but she didn't want to accidentally scratch the hives. He takes care of you. Wyan could tell Fate was getting mad. He took care of you when you scraped your knees, even if they weren't that severe. Fate's scowl deepened. That was his choice. Wyan mirrored their scowl. Exactly, Fate shouted. He didn't have to, but he did. He took time out of his free period just to help you. Yesterday, he may not have seemed like it, but when he said that he was only trying to take care of you, that was the truth. What are you getting so mad at? Wyan frowned. Maybe he was right that one time about you being ungrateful. I said thank you to him when he treated my knees, did I not? She said with an attitude. Yes, you did, Fate stated. But if you were truly thankful, you'd at least show some empathy, or maybe even just a sympathy for his situation with his father. With that, Fate disappeared from Wyan's reflection. Wyan scoffed. It's not my fault he has daddy issues. Wyan bit the inside of her cheek as she stepped toward her sink. Maybe there was some truth in Fate's words. Sometimes she came off as ungrateful, but she didn't mean to. She could say thank you just fine. Her problem was not knowing how to express it with actions. She never took the time to learn either. The only time someone knew she was truly thankful was when she told Koro-sensei thank you. Koro-sensei knew she was being honest and would assist her with showing it better. When she was done washing off everything, she stopped onto her couch. One table, she saw her phone start to ring. She leaned over and picked it up, revealing an unknown number. Accept, decline. Who? She uttered. but declined the call and placed her phone back down. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. Meanwhile, Gakushu stared at his phone in hand. Hello? Gakushu almost began to speak, but then he heard her voice giggle. I'm joking. I'm not available right now, so leave a message after the beep. How childish. He narrowed his eyes at the screen. Moreover, the nerve of that girl to send me immediately to voicemail. Her small act of defiance annoyed him. Wine pulled out the sketchbook from her shelf under the table. She flipped to the last page she was working on. It was a drawing of an outfit she'd wished to create one day. In truth, she was amazing at painting and the like. However, her true passion was fashion design. When she was 11, she learned how to sew from her grandmother. Jian had owned a tailor shop before she retired. If Wine had enough time, she could most likely make a dress and paint on a design by hand. As she picked up a pencil, she saw the phone light up again and ink flowed on her wrist. Pick up your phone. Huh? She groaned as she picked up the call. Hello? It was silent on the other end. Hello? She repeated, more irritated. Gakushu had to pull the phone away from his ear for a moment. Wine was about to hang up when he finally spoke. Is it necessary for you to be so loud? Gakushu asked. Well, you weren't answering, so... Wine trailed off. I didn't answer because your voice recording sounds exactly like you. He replied. Voice recording? Wine questioned. Gakushu cleared his throat and attempted to imitate her voice. Hello? I'm joking. I'm not available right now, so leave a message after the beep. He was prepared to get yelled at by her, but did he care? Not at all. What he didn't expect was for her to laugh. Was that supposed to be your imitation of me? It sounds terrible. That's because you're terrible, Gakushu retorted. It's such a childish recording. I expected better from you, to be completely honest. Thanks. She sarcastically smiled. I recorded that, back in first year junior high. I forgot that's what it was. Have you had the same phone for 5 years? Gakushu inquired. Yeah, she raised an eyebrow. Am I supposed to change it? Your phone must be severely outdated. He chuckled. Does it look like I'm made of money? Point taken, but it's a shame. Wine irked. You trust fund baby. Be quiet. How did you get my number? She asked with furrowed eyebrows and leaned back into her couch. I requested it from Takada. He answered. I needed to ask if you completed your part of the English assignment. I have 3 pages done. Only 3? Dude, it's due in 2 weeks. Wine pointed out. I can get the last page done tomorrow when I come back from work. Gakushu scowled. Even so, I expected you to be done. Wine clicked her tongue. Let me guess. You have all 4 pages done, don't you? And the paragraph. Of course. He confidently replied. It's not difficult. Right. She rolled her eyes. If you wanted to know, you could have just easily checked the online document we share. Yes, but I wanted to inquire about your results. He hummed. Results? For your allergy test? He added, I'm honored that you actually listened to me for once. Wine irked. Do not give yourself credit for that. But I deserve some credit, don't I? He cheekily asked. Sure. Wine trailed off. Anyways, she got up and picked up a paper that she left on her kitchen counter. Well? Wine's swollen eyes scanned the unusually bright paper. It was still hard for her to read due to the water leaking from her eye sockets. The fact that the words were so small were not helping. I prefer not to tell you. She snootily crossed her arms. Why not? He slightly frowned. Why do you want to know? She scowled. You'll probably use them against me. Gakushu sat down at the edge of his bed. Perish the thought. Some can be deadly, and I would never use that against you. Funny. She dryly laughed. I was prescribed an EpiPen and told to carry diphenhydramine, just in case I accidentally ingest something I'm allergic to. That's nice. Gakushu hummed. Wouldn't want you to go into anaphylactic shock now, do we? Wine rolled her eyes, but she ended up regretting that action since it made her eyes water more. She sniffled and wiped her eyes with her wrist. Fine, I'll bite. She let out a sigh and squinted, trying her best to read the words. Gakushu quirked an eyebrow. You seem to be uncharacteristically hesitant. Shut up, she mumbled, holding the paper closer to her face. I think it says hazelnuts? I tested positive for hazelnuts? You can't read properly, can you? Gakushu chuckled with an amused expression. I'm taking that as a yes. Shut the fuck up, I can read just fine. She could not read just fine. Would you like some assistance? Hell no. You're welcome to send me a picture of the results if you are unable to read them, Gakushu mockingly offered. I will read them for you. Wine's nose scrunched as she furiously went over to the paper herself. Her eyes continued to water, making it even harder for her to read. Fine, she fussed. I'm only sending it to you because my eyes won't stop watering, and my eyes are being very sensitive to the light right now. I'm happy to be of assistance then. He condescendingly smiled. Wine put him on speaker as she created his contact, took a photo and sent it to him. Gross. Throw up emoji. Just now. Image. There, she grumbled. I just sent it to you. Gakushu put her on speaker and pulled up her contact. I recommend you get a new phone, he suggested. Your camera quality is very low. Do I have to remind you that I'm a commoner? She hissed. Gakushu looked over the photo. He was taken aback by how many checks there were for both environmental and food allergies. May I ask how you are still alive? His sweat dropped. I'm highly concerned that you didn't know about these allergies until now. Listen, dude, I asked myself that question too. She snorted. What am I allergic to? Did the doctors not go over the results with you? He asked. I probably wasn't paying attention because of how expensive the whole procedure was. She muttered so quietly he couldn't hear. I'm sorry, what was that? He inquired. Nothing. She shook her head. What am I allergic to? Would you like me to start with environmental or food? Which one has the most? Gakushu looked over both columns of the chart. Both had a concerning amount of allergies checked off, with the sizes of the hives written beside it, but he was able to mentally tally them up. In regards to food, he stated, you're allergic to tree nuts. This includes hazelnuts, cashews, pecans, pistachios, walnuts, chestnuts. However, you tested negative for almonds. You're also allergic to peanuts and crayfish. What about fish in general? She asked. You seem to be negative for all other fish and shellfish, such as crab, shrimp, lobster. He answered. Moving on to environmental, you tested positive for several different types of tree pollen, including aspen, birch, cottonwood, hickory, and pecan, along with cockroaches. Are you serious? She deadpanned. I never react when Pᴇʀ asks me to kill roach for her. You should still be aware, he informed. Outside of the two, you're allergic to nickel. Well, that makes sense. Wyan told herself. Some earrings make my ears itch and it gets annoying. Just be careful from now on, now that you know, he warned. I have to admit that I'm still troubled by the fact that you never found out until now. I mean, I knew I was allergic to pollen and stuff. I just didn't know much about the food allergies. She shrugged. But there was this one time I had some kind of chocolate that had praline in it. After a few seconds of eating it, my throat started getting itchy. I had to take a diphenhydramine and I went to sleep straight after. How careless of you. You shouldn't have gone to sleep right away. He scolded. Diphenhydramine makes you drowsy, she informed with a sniffle. She plucked the tissue and blew her nose. Unbeknownst to her, Gakushu scrunched his nose in disgust. Did you at least inform your parents about it? He inquired. Wyan answered. It was a couple of months ago, so I was already living on my own by then. Your parents allowed that? You're only 7. That's off topic and none of your business, she coldly interjected. Gakushu tensed at her chilling tone. My apologies, he told her. She went quiet on the other side of the phone. Is there anything else you need? She asked with a scowl. No, just make sure you get your 4 pages complete, he replied, mirroring her cold tone. All right, bye. She didn't let him say anything before she hung up. She didn't mean to get heated at the mention of her parents, but she did. Usually she wouldn't get mad at anyone who mentioned them. She knew it wasn't their fault that they didn't know about her parents' passing. However, with Gakushu it felt different. She couldn't tell what it was, but she found it easier for her to get mad at him. Maybe it was because of her belief that he was still a pompous and deceitful bastard. Maybe he was right about that one time about you being ungrateful. Fate's words seemed to echo in her head. She breathed a sigh, sitting back down on her couch. She pulled her knees to her chest. A thought crossed her mind as she had recalled both times he had assisted her. First, the ride home. Second, the courtyard. Now he had helped her read off her list of things to avoid. What if, she thought, what if he's actually trying? Of course not. That's not what Gakushu was doing at all. Of course, there was a slight bit of concern he had for her, considering how affected she was by allergies. But for the most part, he mostly inquired out of pure curiosity. He had no ill intentions, nor were they good intentions either. Waya knew how to show gratitude. She just didn't know how to show it to someone like Gakushu. He still annoyed her, and she continued to dislike the idea of him as her soulmate. But for the most part, she had learned to tolerate him. Would that toleration turn into love? Absolutely not. At least, that's what she believed. After letting out another sigh, she tapped the phone icon under his name, noticing that she had hung up. Gakushu scowled. He irritably thought, I'm supposed to be the one to hang up first. He stood up, hooked his phone up to the charger on his desk, sat down, and began to read a physics book. Zzz, zzz. He glanced at his phone. Accept, decline, YNLN. Why is she calling again? He inquired as he picked up. Hello? He hummed. YN uttered on the other side. Listen, I'm sorry about being so cold just now. Gakushu was almost taken aback. Never in life did he ever think he'd get any kind of apology from her. It's quite all right, he replied. I suppose I was being intrusive of your business. Also, Wyan scrunched up her nose as her face heated up. I think I have a lot of things to thank you for. So if you need any favors, like serious favors and not just getting information out of me to prove that you're superior, then, let me know. Gakushu's eyes widened, and his stomach began to have that familiar but strange feeling. His heart did a small dance in his chest, and he inwardly asked it to stop. However, his heart didn't listen to him. He scratched his cheek with his pointer finger. I'll keep that in mind. Wyan pulled her knees closer to her as she felt her heart beat just a tad bit faster. She began to shyly play with the ends of her hair. I'll see you on Monday then. She was happy he was unable to see her. Right. Gakushu nodded. Take care. Take care? Both teens were surprised by his words, especially Gakushu. He just blurted those words out for no reason. You too, Wyan awkwardly replied. He felt his face heat up. Goodbye. Bye. Gakushu hung up. Fate snickered from the mirror. That was such an awkward goodbye. Amethyst's eyes narrowed at Fate. I dislike this feeling. Make it stop. I'm afraid I cannot do such a thing, Fate sighed. You'll have to deal with it on your own. Also, I believe Wyan is feeling the same thing you are at this moment. Isn't it nice to know you're making her feel that way? Don't joke about it like that, Gakushu warned. I'm fully aware that it's part of the soulmate situation. Gakushu whipped his head to his phone. Who is it now? Yumiko Akamine. Accept, decline. Wow, these girls really seem to be falling for you. Fate beamed. As if. Gakushu scoffed, tapping decline on his phone with no hesitation. Well, that was harsh. Fate frowned. I'm busy. He typed a quick text to Yumiko and immediately put his phone on silent. Says the boy who called a girl and picked up when she called back. Fate pointed out. You sure you don't finish that sentence? Gakushu groaned. Meanwhile, Wyan curled into a ball with a bashful expression. Why the hell was that so awkward for me? She muttered, scratching her eyes. She started imitating Gakushu's voice, but she was still flustered. Take care. Whatever. I can take care of myself. In the living room, Fate chirped, "You're adorable when you're flustered. If only Gakushu could see you now." "Oh, you're back," Hwayan sighed. "By the way," Fate hummed. Hwayan's eyebrow twitched at their next words. "Guilt tripping really goes a long way, doesn't it?" Hwayan walked into the classroom, eating a green apple. Her eyes were back to normal, which relieved Gakushu. He was secretly enjoying the fact that her eye-colored hues were no longer sickly and red. Seiji cackled at her. "Imagine having such a weak-ass immune system that a fucking nut can kill you." A half-eaten apple comically hit him right between the eyes. "Should have seen it coming," Kyo chuckled. Gakushu sighed. "Good morning, Ellen." The corners of Hwayan's lips curled into a smile. "Morning, President Asano." Hello everyone, thank you for listening and staying to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Have an amazing morning, have an amazing evening, have an amazing afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye everyone!